So the ACC knew how to handle its own against the Big Ten. No problems there. We're doing it pretty well across the board when it comes to the P5s. But let's talk about some of these quarterbacks. Who's off? Who's thriving? Who needs a little more conversations in the back? Needs a little more hype man energy? Drake May, are you having a sophomore slump?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hold on, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to the pod on our YouTube page and tell your friends because we could use about 15,000 more subscribers. It would make for better time, and I know it would make for better energy for our comments that you love to leave each and every day. Make sure that you also get in on the betting action. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Kenton, I hope you had a great weekend. It's always good when you get some dubs. Let's talk about how the ACC showed up yet again against another Power 5 conference.
Absolutely. This has been, for all of the talk about the ACC and what we are not.
Hello.
There's a lot of conferences that's looking funny in the light. There's a lot of conferences, and the ACC ain't one of them. The ACC ain't one of them. You know what I mean? We had a national power struggling, fighting for their lives against USF with 3 quarterbacks that couldn't complete a pass.
Hello.
One of them didn't play, but that's neither here nor there.
Come on.
We had the Big 12 losing to some action. The Mid-American Conference. That's crazy work. Iowa State and Campbell, I'm looking at you. So I'm ready to talk some ACC ball, but there's a lot of ball going on around this country that's making the ACC look real good right about now. Now, we're not talking about the addition teams. We're not talking about Cal and Stanford because they're not in yet. They're not in yet. They're outside the club right now.
I wonder if did they sign a signature yet? Because is it too late to renege?
Hello?
Is it too late to be like, you know what? Actually, we're good here.
Call Sacramento State. Hey, listen, we doing a relegation system. Y'all beat Stanford, so we considering adding y'all in instead of Stanford. Just think about it. Take some time to look over it off.
I'm trying to tell you because there's nothing right now that makes me excited about the new additions.
Listen, if I was the ACC, I would tell Stanford, don't call us. We'll call you. We'll have our people get in touch with your people. We'll work it out.
Actually, we looked at the paperwork and we're all set. We're all set here. Thank you so much. But it's really great for the ACC in all seriousness to be competing so well against some Big Ten SEC programs that everyone just is hell-bent on telling us that we're just not in the same realm. So it's always appreciative in that regard. We've got a lot to go over on today's show, talking about how some of our top teams showed up against the Big Ten. But more than that, is Louisville for real? Because at the end of the day, I've had my doubts. It's clear that they are trying to do everything other than lose. And, I'm excited for them. I also want to talk a little bit about ACC quarterbacks because some are having great seasons, doing just enough to get by. Hard to throw out the H word right now, but it's close. I feel like across the national board, everyone's doing solid. So some are hindering themselves a little bit. Take a step back. But across the board, there's nobody that's been like, ooh, big eyeballs, watch this QB. And so I would like to have that conversation with you today, Kenton, if we could.
Not a single ACC quarterback needs to be in that conversation of the H word. Nobody.
Not one? It has to be somebody.
We'll get into it. I don't want to spoil it too soon and let everybody know my angle too soon. But what? There's a conversation. If there is a Heisman contender in this conference, it's not a signal caller, and I'll just leave it at that.
So let's get this one out of the way, right? Because while we did show up in big ways for the ACC Big Ten Challenge, there was one that sort of held us back a bit. Virginia, looking at you, big dog. Came out swinging, fighting, gave a fighting chance. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, came up short 42-14 against Maryland, which, we're a familiar foe we've had here in terms of just having yep, there it is. Okay. There we go. It was so bad. Kenton had to remove himself from the YouTube space.
That's
get off camera because he was trying to gather his thoughts, how to talk about Virginia, because it feels like there's not a win in sight.
If I were to talk about Virginia,
Yeah.
If I were to talk about Virginia and somebody said, Kenton, gun to your head, you got to say something nice. They have a star in the making in Anthony Calandria.
Yes.
That boy is, and let me not say star in the making because that may be overdoing it. His potential and his ceiling, it's there. The kid has the moxie. He has the ability. He is one of those players that when you watch him, you know that you're watching a freshman because it's always exciting. And it's not necessarily a good thing for Virginia. Sometimes make it less exciting. Sometimes you're out of the pocket, 12 yards deep, throw the ball away, right? But he'll learn and refine those things.
Yeah.
He's got the arm strength. He has the ability to escapability is something you need if you're going to play at the University of Virginia. Let's just be quite honest with ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And with that being said, he has that. And again, his unshakable confidence. Confidence. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he made freshman mistakes which snowballed and got worse and worse throughout the game. But I'm going to tell you, for a true freshman, a kid that was slow dancing at prom less than 6 months ago, to see where he is now, that is, Tony Elliott and crew may have their signal caller. I don't know if Tony Elliott going to be there the whole time. But if Tony Elliott can withstand the years, the test of the years per se, they've got a signal caller for years in Calandria.
Yeah, 23 for 39 on the day, 263 yards to get the 3 interceptions that you certainly want back. Costly when in terms of not being able to take the sack or throw it away. Things that, again, he will learn, he'll teach, he'll get reamed out about, and will move forward. I think Musket is going to have a seat. I don't foresee him, being the starter moving forward, but you never know, right? They said it was a health reason of why he didn't play, so he could be up there.
Again, Musket is the guy that that is the actual Musket versus Calandria is what you actually see play out 9 times out of 10 when you've got an older guy versus the young upstart. The older guy may not have that same level of talent, but he just keeps things steady. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's not going to make the spectacular play, but he's just going to keep you on schedule. He's going to do what you need. Calandria, on the other hand, Calandria, on the other hand, he gonna stress you out. You're gonna say no, and then you're gonna say yes. All right, great. I love that you did that. But again, Anthony Calandria, he's the quarterback of the future at UVA. If he can clean up that decision making, which of course, honestly, he's a first year guy. I expect you to make terrible decisions. I expect that of you.
Hero ball, if you will. Yeah,
I'd be surprised if there was anything else. But with that being said, Virginia has a ton of problems on that roster. I mean, everywhere except maybe the defensive line, they are completely devoid of talent to the point where I'm looking at them and wondering, like, hey, what's going to happen here?
About you saying something nice. Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
It started with the nice thing. It started with a lot of nice things.
You tried hard. You did. All right, let's get to the positive ACC versus the Big Ten. Louisville, 21-14 victory over Indiana. You say, oh, Indy, they're a decent team, but at the end of the day, a W is a W. A win is a win, right? A win is a win.
I'm going to say something that people aren't going to like to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Here we go.
I was wrong about Louisville. Not only was I wrong about Louisville, I was so wrong about Louisville that I now feel like there are 5 elite, not good, not decent, not, oh, he played well. 5 elite performances, which I don't think he has in him. 5 elite Jack Plummer performances away from being a conference champion. And I mean that.
Okay.
At minimum.
Okay.
At minimum. I have not seen, and I mean this with everything in my heart and soul, nobody else has had a supporting cast do as much. Nobody. Johar Jordan is averaging 10 yards a carry while leading the conference in rushing yards. Normally, when you see 10 yards a carry, you think, oh, this is a guy that gets the ball on trick plays, and he's probably only touching it 2-3 times. Johar Jordan he's the guy. He's their bell cow, and their bell cow is averaging 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And then you look at Thrash on the outside doing his thing. You look at the guy that I've talked about all year long and said, this is my guy. I knew he was going to be a baller. Ashton Gelati doing his thing on that defense. You have so many weapons on this team that are playing out of their minds right now. Just really, really and truly. And I'm not saying this to say that they're world beaters that's beating everybody by 50 and they're beating a bunch of quality teams, but they keep finding ways to win.
So here's my question for you, right? Because we just talked about Musket, we just talked about Calandria, and we're going to be talking about quarterbacks here in just a bit. But would you prefer Jack Plummer to be more of a game manager, just to get out the way? Get out of the way.
Yeah, there are 3 different categories of quarterback, right? There's the quarterback that you win because of that's the guy that's making the exciting plays and he's making the right decisions. If you think back at Louisville quarterbacks, you think about Lamar Jackson. They were winning because of Lamar Jackson. That team around him. If you put Lamar on this team, they'd be all over the place. His face would be everywhere. They get the attention the Colorado Buffs are getting, that type of deal. Maybe not from celebrities, but that's a different story for a different time.
Sure.
That's what you would see there, right? A quarterback that puts the team on his back and does everything. Then you got the quarterback that you win with. That's the game manager you keep referring to. The guy that he's not going to do anything crazy. He's going to make the right read. He's going to get it to the playmakers. Playmakers, y'all do it. Y'all playmakers, if y'all cannot break tackles, if y'all cannot make spectacular catches on 50-50 balls, you're not going to win the game. But if you can do that, if the defense can produce, you'll be good. And then there's the quarterback that you win in spite of. Think Mark Sanchez with the Jets. That type of deal where they went to 2 straight AFC championships with this complete and utter slap word that I will not say on air because I like us to keep our clean rating, quarterback. That's not, that's what Jack Plummer's being right now, just to be quite honest. He's being a guy that they're having to win in spite of.
No, he's a butt fumbler.
And so in terms of him playing better, being the key, that's it. If he succeeds, if he puts out in just a couple games where they're going to need him to show up. If he shows up big time, this team, the ceiling is the roof, as a famous ACCer would say.
All right, let's talk about this here. Do you ever find that you're just trying to fall asleep? Your brain suddenly won't stop talking. Do your thoughts start racing right before bed? It turns out one great way to make those racing thoughts go away is to talk them through. Therapy gives you a place to do that so you can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace. Trust me, I know as someone who works nonstop and brain is always on, it is always nice to talk to somebody to sort of just get myself in a better place, get my brain to just relax itself and all the things. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedoncollege today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedoncollege. Now, while we're talking through Big Ten ACC, let's talk about the fact that there are other schools. Louisville's for real. Feel that from the energy that you got us. Thank you so much, Kenton. Minnesota and North Carolina, right? First time ever playing each other. North Carolina certainly playing at home and always feels that crowd energy at Keenan. And I think that playing a Minnesota team that is looking for that big win, take down a top 25 opponent, this would have been the great game to do so, as North Carolina looked a little shaky against App State. Thankfully, North Carolina, despite some of Drake May's hiccups, was able to pull out a big win, 31-13 over the Gophers.
If somebody would have told me, Kenton, UNC's quarterback play will be average this year and they'll still be 2-1 out of their first 3 games, I would have laughed at you, called you a liar, and taken every bet in the world to say average through the first 3 games. That means that he was average against App State, against South Carolina, against Minnesota. And you think you're going to tell me that this team is going to be undefeated? Oh, I'll bet the house on that. I'll bet everything on that. And boy, would I have been wrong. This defense is showing improving. They're showing improving. And granted, USC's offense as well as Minnesota's offense have both not shown much this year in terms of even outside of their game against UNC. But you can only play who's in front of you. And UNC's defense looks improved. They look improved. And that's all there is to it.
And I think I like the fact that it's not just Cedric Gray being named, being called. And while he's flying all over the field, I also appreciate the fact that UNC is still getting punched in the mouth when it comes to the run game. There's no doubt about that. They are still very much struggling to stop the run. However, they're not getting overwhelmed by the fact that they get punched. They're able to reset and refocus, which isn't something we have been able to say so frequently in the past couple of seasons. So I think that's where you contain, you capitalize on mistakes. If this team is going to be great moving forward, especially if Drake May is going to be shaky and throwing more interceptions and touchdowns, you're going to have to make some interceptions yourself and be able to, capitalize on those by scoring points and those turnovers. So it's sort of, are we getting a full and complete, while at best sometimes average, North Carolina team? I'd argue so.
I'll say this. South Carolina and Beamer. I don't know how much longer Beamer's going to be there. PJ Fleck has rowed that Minnesota boat out of the state of 1,000 lakes into just a shipwreck. I'm concerned about both of the teams that they beat on very deep levels in terms of both of the Power 5 teams that they beat so far this year, but they won the games. They won.
That has not always been North Carolina's testimony. And that's where I can say, all right, head nod, tilt. Hey, it ain't that bad.
They're undefeated. And then as the good book says, everybody ain't able. Everybody
and more than
is
that,
not able.
At the end of the day, all that matters in this game here is the W.
Yeah.
Don't care how you do it. Sometimes it ain't pretty. Sometimes it ain't shaky. If you come out, with half the people being somewhat healthy, then you're good to go. But I will say, as we talk about here, maybe in this next segment, where there are some major concerns at that quarterback position that we didn't even remotely think were going to happen. But maybe you did a little bit because you've spoken on it a time or two. But before we get into that, let's talk about a couple more Big Ten ACC games. Duke and Northwestern. Not Duke. I'm here to tell you. They're for real. 38-14 victory over Northwestern. Not because Northwestern is a good team, but because Duke is not losing their composure, not squatting the bed over teams that, they could get caught up against. They're being consistent, and they're letting y'all know this wasn't a fluke last year. And they're on the road to 10 wins, which is going to get me my $300 that if anyone who's been loyal to the show knows, Kenton said double or nothing because last year he gave me $150 and he had no faith in me, and he had no faith in Riley Leonard. He had no faith in Dwayne Carter. And now Jalen and all the Jalens and all the Jordans and everyone else, Jaquez, everybody who named Jay on that Duke team is showing up and showing out. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, okay? They're going to need to beat at least one of these teams to get to 10, more likely than not, okay?
We're talking about bowl game too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, I thought it was just regular season.
No, because they got 9 with the bowl game. They got 9 with the bowl game.
But with bowl game wasn't included in the bet. But all right, we'll throw it in there. We'll throw it in there. We'll throw it in there.
Go ahead.
We'll throw it in there.
Go ahead.
They need to beat at least one of these 3 teams. And mind you, they've already beaten Clemson, so that's a huge,
which was shocking.
Mark there.
Yes.
Huge mark there. They have to beat Notre Dame, Florida State, UNC. One of those 3. They have to beat at least one of those 3, and they can't fumble any of these games off as well, by the way. You're looking at NC State, Louisville, Wake Forest, and I'll leave it at that. Those last 2, not really worried about them. Not worried about them.
Say them. Who are they?
UVA and Pitt. They'll be just fine.
So here's the thing, though. I think with Louisville, I would have added them to your mix of teams to be a little bit like you're going to have to come out with a W4 based on how Louisville is playing right now.
Right. I'd agree. 1,000%. The only thing is this: if I added Louisville to that category of like, hey, they have to beat this team, they would have to beat 2 of them. Because if they only beat one of those teams, then they walk out of that with 4 losses. Did
you watch the FSU BC game and suddenly think that FSU is not beatable?
No, I watched that game and thought to myself, that's an immature team. They went to sleep on a terrible team because they're not used to being at that level. Let's just be honest. Who on that Florida State roster that is a major player has competed at this level in the past? Jared Verse was at Albany before there. Were they competing for conference championship?
Boy, they finna eat you up.
At this level? At this level? That's what I'm saying. Jordan Travis was at Louisville. When he was at Louisville, were they competing for conference championships at this level?
You're right. Go ahead.
Keon Coleman was at Michigan State. We all know what's going on at Michigan State in terms of the Mel Tucker situation, but even if you don't talk about that, were they competing at a conference championship level in the Big Ten when he was there? That's what I mean in terms of like, we can all sit here and play around and ha-ha and he at like, oh man, they played terribly. This is not a team that has a bunch of guys that are used to, this is our standard. They're looking at like, wow, we're doing great. We're doing amazing. We can go to sleep because it's Boston College. And oh no, who's this Castellanos kid? They said that he played at UCF last year. He ain't supposed to be the guy. Lo and behold, he's the guy.
And let's talk about the fact that we had mentioned earlier, this season that Mike Norvell is the biggest challenge he has yet before him is managing a team like this, who isn't used to winning, who isn't used to this type of success, and also being a coach that has been so much pressure put on him. If there was ever a year where the pressure, really the rubber gonna meet that road, it's right here in front of you. Yeah. So I do challenge him. Even, I think it starts at the top. Really, how do you keep a team like this composed? They figured it out. They pulled out a win. But we're talking about ACC Big Ten. So I'll say all that to say, I think that Duke, definitely has an opportunity to surprise them, pop them in the mouth, or, they can beat UNC, homecoming. Why you would ever schedule that? You're crazy. And I think that also, Louisville's one, and NC State and Duke, there's a little hometown rivalry there. A lot could be said of them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying it's impossible they get to 10. After beating Clemson, the walls came in on me close. The walls came in and said, hey, this is why you don't bet.
That's what you get. And that's what you get.
This is why you're not a better man. This is not why you're not a betting man, Kendra. This right here is why you don't play with your money like that.
The Lord don't play about me and my bets because I need every red cent. Okay, we got a couple more Big Ten ACC games. Virginia Tech and Rutgers. I know I mentioned the one at the top who struggled with us, but the Commonwealth is just hurting us. Can't even get it out, Stutter Stanley. 35-16. Had to be one. It had to be somebody. It had to be two. So I just think that Virginia and Virginia Tech, Commonwealth crew, need to have a man in the mirror conversation about how they want to be perceived. Because you're talking about recruiting and you're talking about just trying to build legacy, and it's getting tough.
To get blown out in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2023.
Yeah. By
a team led by Greg Schiano is insane. That is insane. For those of you who don't know, Greg Schiano has been at this coaching thing for quite some time. He was at Rutgers, then went to the NFL, then went back to Rutgers. He did not leave the NFL by choice because he was just doing so well. He said, I want to come back to college. That's not how that went down. I trust me. Rutgers is not that appealing. The Scarlet Knights, while that may be his home and where he knows he's got darn near a lifetime contract, it's just not that appealing. Mm-hmm. It's just not that nice of a place. I believe it's, what is it, Piscataway, New Jersey, or what city is it in?
Correct.
Like
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's just not that nice. It's not. No offense. With all due respect to Rutgers. So, the Commonwealth boys, y'all got to have, if any of you saw Avengers Infinity War when Bruce Banner said, big green guy, we got some things to figure out. That's where both of these teams are. Y'all got some things to figure out because Grant Wells, not the guy. Not the guy. Not it. And he doesn't have the excuse of Calandrian. Well, this is my first time playing out here. I
went through a whole season.
I was used to seeing some freshman who was 14 years old and they hit puberty yet. Yeah. That was a starter 6 months ago playing football. Now I'm seeing these grown men that, like, even a guy that's going to be working at Allstate in 6 months can bench 400 pounds. Like, it's a different ballgame. So
Allstate is crazy. It should have said Enterprise. It was right there.
Either way it goes.
Yeah.
Either way it goes.
Continue.
They're not going to be working for an NFL team. That's my point. They're seeing
they could be a volunteer assistant coach, something, or all right.
Yeah, okay. The numbers don't work out that all 85 guys on all the teams that Virginia's played so far, all of them are going to go be assistant coaches somewhere.
That's fair.
They're going to go coach the Fairfax Titans Little League team. That's what they're going to do.
Finish your point.
The point is, these teams in Virginia, man, they got to have some honest looks in the mirror because both of them got embarrassed by teams that Maryland is all right. They're they'll go to a bowl game probably this year. I'm not expecting them to compete to win a Big Ten championship. I'm not expecting them to be anywhere near that conversation. If they do, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Locksley. I'd love to see it. Even though they have horrible uniforms, I'd love to see them be good. With that being said, Rutgers, same type of deal. That's not a good team.
Yeah.
You should not be getting blown out by not good teams. What are y'all doing?
Embarrassing. But on the positive, let's end on a high note. Syracuse Schrader, without Aranda Gadsden, who is out for the season, beat Purdue 35-20.
Aranda Gadsden, we send all our love to you, man.
The second, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Aranda Gadsden, the second, correct. We send all our love to you, man. That's terrible. Tough injury.
Yeah.
Seeing season enders for anybody, it's never fun. Never fun. All the players who've been injured this year, hey, we wish y'all all the best. We hope that everybody stays healthy. We know that football is a violent game, and that ain't the reality.
Yep.
But to see as prolific and as exciting of a playmaker as Aranda go down, it hurts the entertainment value of the conference as a whole a little bit. Let's just be honest. Just be honest, because that's one less thing. You got this 6'4" freak of a monster who just knows how to run routes. He knows how to get open. He knows how to control his body. And yet, despite all that being missing, Schrader says, I got it, boys. We'll be all right.
A lot of
We'll
trick
figure this
plays
out.
going on there with Garrett. You better do it.
Yeah.
You better do it.
And at the end of the day, I'm going to say this. Garrett Schrader has very quietly played himself into that. Am I the best quarterback in the conference? Conversation.
Let's
very
talk
quiet.
about it.
Very quietly
because
played himself.
Syracuse is really under this radar, and they're used to being 3-0 and see how it goes. We're really waiting for the back half Syracuse. I want to see what the back half Syracuse is looking like when we really get deep into conference play. But quiet as it's kept, the quarterback conversation around the ACC. Thought it was going to be all about Drake May, Jordan Travis. Still really is Jordan Travis in the conversation of top quarterbacks. I think Garrett Schrader should be in that mix. Who else have you felt as if could be in the H-word conversation? If not the H-word conversation, just truly leading the pack. Because there are some that I'm like high flying, all right, shooting stars. There are others that I'm like, all right, it's about that time. Let's wrap this one up.
I don't, again, and I'm going to say this with all due respect, I don't think anybody is in the Heisman conversation at the moment. Everybody has Heisman moments coming up, like the opportunity for Heisman moments coming up. Obviously, you still got Florida State, Miami coming up. 2 big-time opportunities for Jordan Travis, for TVD. But so far, it's tough to say, hey, Tyler Van Dyke has been lights out. He's been amazing. He has been. He has been. Against the mighty Miami, Ohio Redhawks and Bethune-Cookman and Texas A&M, who last year was a terrible team in terms of defense and in terms of getting stops. They were not a good team. And so, you can only play who's in front of you. We do not deny that. We're not going to say, hey, we're punishing you because the teams that you played are bad. But the reality very simply is, how easy is it to say, hey, you're a Heisman candidate off your first 3 games when you're looking at a team that, objectively speaking, multiple times last year, 30, 40-point outings against teams that weren't good.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't think that any quarterback, Drake May was solidly in the Heisman conversation. He's played himself right out of that thing. Riley Leonard is a guy that I looked at and said, oh, that first game, all right, okay, that run against Clemson, that long touchdown, you put yourself in that conversation, brother. With all due respect. And maybe this is because they haven't needed him to, and he will have opportunities as well.
Mm-hmm.
He has not shown me anything. He has not shown me anything to say like, hey, this guy, Heisman contender. He's winning. He is a winner. He's shown me that much. I have not seen anything to say Heisman contender, because those are 2 different categories. Heisman contender means you get the crowd going. You are electric. You are one of the best players, if not the best player in the country. That's what Heisman tells me. And I haven't seen that from anybody so far in the conference.
1,000%. And while we do have quarterbacks that certainly are, having solid seasons, there are those that could use a coming to Jesus, whatever your faith is. Some that could use a man in the mirror conversation. And Bill Dracovic, Brendan Armstrong, I might be looking at y'all.
Yeah. Come to Jesus, Yahweh, Allah, don't matter. They need to come to somebody. Come to the flying spaghetti monster. Come to the cult leader that's wearing all white sandals and linen
Coke bottle glasses.
all the time.
Coke bottle glasses.
Phil Dracovic, what's going on, brother? What's going on? I thought that whole front runner thing was, again, going to be okay, because, again, you're playing in the team that's going to give you the opportunity to get in the front. This man has not been bad. He's been terrible. And here's the worst part about it. In watching the backyard brawl, Pitt did everything to get him the opportunity to be successful. Whenever your quarterback's struggling, what do they say? Simplify the game, play to his strengths.
Yeah.
What are Phil Jacobic's strengths? He's athletic. He can move a little bit, kind of, maybe get him out the pocket, get him rolling a little bit. That didn't help.
Maybe K-roll.
Okay, well, find concepts that he's comfortable with. And if you can't find a concept he's comfortable with, find a concept that every quarterback is comfortable with. We all know mesh. For those of you who stayed up till 2 a.m. watching that Colorado State-Colorado game, guess what? Colorado State ran about 1 million times in that game to get a bunch of easy completions and move the ball. Mesh, drags. The boy can't even hit those.
It's a sad sight for real, because I think that when you thought you had the problem solver, you really were going to put it all on the quarterback last season for Pitt, and now you almost regressed even more. That's got to be frustrating for Narduzzi, who said he's loyal to the soil. He's not going to make a quarterback change. But if I were him,
listen. Coaches lie all the time. Coaches lie all the time. And he was probably saying that without watching this film back, because there's no way. There's no way
you play him
God's
next
green.
week.
And I'm not even joking when I say this. I can't find a defense for Field. I can't find. Let's talk about his stats through these first. Let's find these stats through these first couple of games, shall we? Candace, guess his completion percentage for me. Take a crack at it.
67.
46%.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many yards he's putting up here through these first few games?
Total?
Yeah. Or passing.
160.
Okay. 474. 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions.
Okay.
This man has been god awful. You cannot tell me that there's a world in which you can't tell me there's a world in which Phil Jacoby gives this team the best opportunity to win the game.
But you know who is? And we're going to end with this. Let's give it up for Castellanos.
Hey.
Hand clap and praise.
Hand clap.
We're going to go over all the games. Of course, we're talking about the ACC Big Ten, but there was just a matchup that we need a little more time, a little more love to give. That Florida State Boston College game. Castellanos, BC found their quarterback. Just saying.
Here's a fun fact about Castellanos. The man has more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, and more rushing yards than Riley Leonard at this point.
And that was a little nugget you wanted to end on. Great. That's why.
And here's the thing.
You're high on Riley. I didn't know.
And here's the thing. It's not about Riley performing poorly. They perform so well. He's out of the game early a lot. That's just the reality. That's just the reality of what we saw. But with that being said, Castellanos is having to do everything. He's one of the only quarterbacks in the league that is in the top 10 in both passing and rushing. The dude is doing everything. Yeah. Dude is showing up, showing out, doing all that he can. That's a good man, Savannah. He's just in a bad situation.
I'm not even going to entertain that last sentence with the rebuttal, but that's good. I appreciate that.
Everybody who's seen Wait and Exhale know what I mean. They know what I mean. If you haven't seen Wait and Exhale, watch the movie. It's a wonderful movie. Angela Bassett did a thing in it.
Show did. Light that thing up. And we are going to light it up tomorrow as we give you a nice graphic of how everyone did in terms of Candace said, Kenton said, and what the fans said. So you guys all put your polls in. We've got week 4 in the community page, getting ready to rock and roll here in just a bit. But make sure you come back tomorrow to see where we're scoring, because I feel like I'm in the lead. But, I just don't want to ruffle any feathers tonight.
I feel like you're behind me, actually. I feel like we're both behind the fans.
I don't need that aggression. But anyway, I hope you guys come up back tomorrow to talk with us through the games. And we can go over a little more in depth about ones that we thought were great and ones that we thought were just a little raggedy. But for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, we hope you have a great rest of your evening. Until next time.